All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. Michael Darcy, your host here as always, and tonight, once again, I have my friend on, Lucas Murphy. You can find him over at Fan Nation at Inside the Royals and Blue Wings Rising. And tonight, we're going to break down the Chiefs signing former Packers wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So earlier today, the Chiefs signed former Packers wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling to a 3-year deal worth $13 million, and $18 million of that contract will be paid out within the first 2 years of this deal. So Lucas, what are your initial thoughts of this signing? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? How are your overall thoughts on Marquez Valdes-Scantling?
Honestly, man, I'm a little bit more aware of Marquez Valdes-Scantling because I've actually had him in fantasy football for a couple years, so I've been paying probably a little bit more attention than just the average fan here in Kansas City. But, man, I like what he can provide. And I think if we look at this from just an overall perspective of what the Chiefs are trying to assemble, I think he is definitely an upgrade to a DeMarcus Robinson. And I even think that there's going to be a chance that over this stretch, we're going to see him probably improve to a little bit better than what a Byron Pringle is. That's their expectation for him, and that should be our expectation. If he does more than that, then, man, they got their money's worth. And I think that that's what, we're seeing a lot of people trying to say he's going to replace Tyreek Hill, or he was brought in to replace Tyreek. Guys, that's not the intention. The intention is to replace the stats of players that are leaving, and they got in a good one. One of the things that I was kind of concerned with early on was he did drop some footballs quite a bit in the 2020 season. He had about an 11% drop rate, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually is.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was kind of concerning at the time. But then last year he didn't drop a ball at all, and I think that is absolutely impressive. So I really like this signing. I think it's going to go well. I think he's going from obviously a back-to-back MVP award winner in Aaron Rodgers to an absolute stud in Patrick Mahomes, and I think he'll do really well within this offense.
Yeah, I do agree with you in some parts. I think that it is a good signing. I could argue that the Chiefs did overpay for him just a little bit. They're giving him $10 million over 3 years. Well, $10 million each year for 3 years. If I was to guess, I think he probably only plays 2 years here, and they cut him after the third or the second. So he makes only $18 million here. And I think it's a good move. It's obviously not going to replace Tyreek Hill. I don't think that anybody logically thinks that Marquez Valdes-Scantling was the Chiefs' idea as a backup plan. That's clearly not what Brett Veach intends. But I think that for what the Chiefs got with this guy, it's a great value pick. Again, you might have overpaid for him, but that's just kind of the wide receiver market as it stands in 2022. You got to overpay to get guys to come to Kansas City, and you got to get overpaid to get guys in general. So I think that this is a good move, but one thing that does concern me is he's 27 years old and he's never had an 1,000-yard season. I would compare him a lot like Mecole Hardman, and I don't know how Chiefs Kingdom would feel if we paid Mecole Hardman $10 million a year. I don't know how they would feel. And I think that he's got something in the tank. He's got something the Chiefs look for. He's a big receiver. He is a guy that can play in the slot. I think he's going to be used as a deep threat. But the problem is the drops were an issue in 2020. Now, you can say, he fixed it in 2021. He was only targeted 26 times, or he had 26 receptions for 430 and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, he didn't have a drop last year, but he wasn't really targeted. So that's kind of what concerns me. I don't think we've seen enough of a sample size of Marquez Valdes-Scantling to give a proper judgment because, sure, he's got some very nice attributes the Chiefs can use, but also he's proven just about as much as Mecole Hardman. I would say that's a fair comparison at this point.
Well, I think we have to look at, too, how the Packers offense is ran. And, you can kind of see when Aaron Rodgers doesn't necessarily click with a certain receiver. Plus, Marquez Valdes-Scantling wasn't, I would say within their organization, he was probably their 4. And I'm just being honest because they had Devontae Adams. Rodgers likes to go to the tight end. Robert Tonyan at the time. Mercedes Lewis. He likes that tight end. But then you also have like Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. So I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling was probably your fourth best receiver on that team. That's not saying he is, not good. I just think that that's who Rodgers likes to go to. And I think he got a lot more comfortable with him as, they progressed through and he worked with him a lot more because you started to see a lot more, from him. He did have 73 targets in 2018. It did regress down to 56, but then it started to pick back up. So him coming to Kansas City again, though, I think that role that we're going to see with him is similar to that. Do I think that – I think Juju right now is obviously going to be your number one receiver, but I think we can expect Travis Kelce to get the attention that he always gets. I mean, that's blatantly obvious. So right there you're talking about being the two. And then, if they do go make another move or they make a draft selection at a higher rate, I would say that individual is probably going to be valued and looked at a little bit more than him. I think that he's a role player, and I think, he's accepted that. He's trying to become elite at that. So I do believe that that's where he's going to be, and I think that's probably why we're seeing those low target numbers. I do think he did get injured. I think he had an injury last year for sure. But, I think that he's going to come in and fill a role. And like you said, too, this receiver market is absolutely insane right now. I mean, people are paying some astronomical numbers for guys who really are kind of average to a little bit above average, and that's just where we're at. But I really do like this move. I think it's going to fit well. I think he's going to bring a good attitude. He is definitely a team player, and I think he'll mesh well pretty good with this receiving group.
And I think that for anybody to say, the Chiefs are done at wide receiver, that's just ignorant. I think the Chiefs are definitely still looking in free agency, and I think that the draft is going to be something that they use a pretty high draft pick on. They are going to try to get their wide receiver one to replace Tyreek Hill. Now, obviously, you can't replace Tyreek Hill, but they're going to have to do their best attempt at trying to do so. And I think that the draft is what they're going to use to do that. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be that number 2, 3. No, he'd be your number 3 receiver if you draft one. And I think that for that, it's a good signing. And I'm going to kind of drop a bombshell right now. I think you could make the argument that if the Chiefs continue to use resources at the wide receiver position, if let's say they draft one in the early first round, their receiving core is going to be better than it was last year. Now, obviously, you don't have superstar Tyreek Hill, but last year's receiving core outside of Tyreek Hill wasn't that great. Byron Pringle, he's a solid receiver. I think that if you give Marquez Valdes-Scantling his receptions, he's going to outproduce. Mecole Hardman is going to have a chance at a bigger role. And you saw that when Tyreek Hill wasn't on the field last year, Hardman played pretty well. And when you draft a wide receiver and add that with Juju Smith-Schuster, you've got 4 really good options for Mahomes to go to outside of Travis Kelce. So I understand that you're going to be missing your superstar wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, but the Chiefs are not going to be going into this season with absolute garbage cans at wide receiver. They're going to have some really good options, and I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a good piece to add to this receiving group. I do.
I agree 100%. I think, too, and I may get honestly just annihilated for this, but I would have to say that I think what this is doing is this is creating a diversity of receivers. This isn't just keying in on one elite, just extremely talented, top-tier guy in Tyreek Hill. This is going to be a very diverse receiving group. So we saw the complete drop-off from what the skill set was of Tyreek Hill down to a Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle. Like, that is blatantly obvious, and people talked about it all the time on social media. You would see it. I think now what you're seeing is basically an equal playing field. I think Juju's probably a little bit better than what we've got, but I think across the board, like, Mecole's basically going to be the same as Marquez Valdes-Scantling when you're talking about skill set level. I'm sure that when you bring in a rookie, even though like they're going to be super talented, they're a rookie. They got to figure some things out, so they're going to still kind of be on that level until they work their way up. Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be able to be diverse in his passing, and I think by bringing in Matt Nagy and having, that resurgence of what we're seeing in this offense, I really think that you're going to start to see this thing get spread out in all different types of ways. And I think that might have been, obviously we were very harsh on how the offense was kind of, I guess, ran, you could say, towards the end. This is going to be a whole different look, and I think maybe that's what was needed. That's a big reason why people were questioning whether Bieniemy should have come back, because it's been so stagnant. We're seeing a lot of the same things. This is going to be a huge diversity of ability to throw to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, to hit Mecole Hardman, to throw to Juju Smith-Schuster, to still have still have Travis Kelce. There's rumors that Ronald Jones might be coming in, who is a very good catching out of the backfield type of guy. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're going to be able to throw all different things at you, and they're all going to be, pretty relatively the same type of thing. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is we're starting to see a huge change, but we're also getting very young. And I think that this is going to be needed. Honestly, that's exactly what it is. And I think that they've been talking about this for a while. I'm sure it's a conversation they had with Bieniemy when he came back. Hey, we need to shake some things up. We need to start changing it. And that's why I think Valdes-Scantling fits in so well, because, he may not be that flashy, top-tier guy, but he has a skill set that is needed. And I think that moving forward, we're going to see that with a lot of this moving forward when we start to sign free agents, draft guys. I think that's what you're going to see.
And I think that, last year the biggest thing was, the Chiefs don't really have anybody outside of Tyreek Hill in the receiving core. And now you have some valid options. And I think that even though it stings to have him depart, you're going to have a chance to see what you got in a Mecole Hardman, who's going to be playing in a contract year. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be able to kind of take over that role, and who knows, he might have a breakout year. And you've got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's also in a contract year. And I think that the Chiefs could also make a trade for Laviska Shenault, who is a stud. If you could get him, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal in Jacksonville. Just keep getting those guys. Because Mahomes, we saw what he did with Byron Pringle. He can elevate talent. And I'm not saying that Byron Pringle's a bad receiver, but let's be honest, he's not the best. He was an undrafted free agent that turned into something, but it's because Mahomes is that good. I do believe he had a pretty big part in Pringle's development, and he is going to need to be the best quarterback in the planet to elevate these guys. And I think that he can do it, but just give him the guys to elevate. And that's what Marquez Valdes-Scantling is. It's another guy for Patrick Mahomes to say, hey, you've got a unique skill set. Let me go see what I can do with that. Let me go see what we can do together to make this offense as good as possible, even without your superstar. And I think, you might not have the top-heavy options like you did in years prior, but having 4 different receivers that are capable of catching the football at any given moment, that's very valuable. It's really valuable. And, my closing thoughts, to kind of get back to my only concern, if Marquez Valdes-Scantling can catch the football, we will be fine. That's really my biggest concern. And I think that, all right, you are paying him $10 million a year, but if he starts to catch the football and he's having these breakout seasons of, let's say, 800, 900 yards and, let's say, 6 touchdowns, this is a steal. Considering the wide receiver market, this is an absolute steal. And I think that hopefully he has a breakout season next year. Lucas, what are your thoughts in closing?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think he's capable of doing that, too. I think that's the biggest thing, is he is capable of doing that. And I think that would be a reason why they brought him in. I also wanted, my final thoughts is keep an eye out for replacing Yak, yards after catch. Travis Kelce is very good at that. Tyreek Hill was extremely good at that. I think that's something that they're going to have to really look at to replace, because obviously we've talked about multiple times. Stats, touchdowns, yards, things like that can be replaced, but one of the unique things that Tyreek Hill brought was his Yak. And so I think that they're going to try to look for someone who has tremendous, Yak yards after catch. Valdes-Scantling doesn't necessarily do that because of his type of play. He's a deep threat. A lot of the time, he's going to catch the ball and either be breaking away for the end zone or he's going to get tackled. So we're looking for, a guy that can replace that Yak. So I think that's what's next. But, man, I'm a huge fan of this signing, like we said. I'm super pumped. I think that, what's next is going to be, we'll really have to focus on this defense. Obviously we saw Arden Key coming in. There's rumors you and I both talked to Stephon Gilmore potentially. So I'm excited to talk that next whenever you have me on.
You are the guy, so you'll be here whenever you want to come back on. But I do think that, in conclusion, Marquez Valdes-Scantling was a moderately low risk, but this has the opportunity to be a pretty high reward because with Tyreek Hill gone, guys are going to have to step up, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling could be one of those guys. So, Lucas, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on here tonight. Once again, where can the people find you?
Biggest place you guys can find me is going to be at kcsportsreport.com. Guys, we are just doing everything we can to push content out over there. Try to give you guys articles. We're going to be pushing the YouTube videos. Hopefully soon we're going to be doing a podcast version of it. We're going to be hitting you guys with everything. So kcsportsreport.com. Support us. It helps out a lot. Find me over at Twitter. That's the Beat of KC. Guys, I engage. I talk to you. And I've been trying to communicate a lot more on there, just kind of my thoughts. And then also you guys can find me at Inside the Royals through Fan Nation and also Blue Wings Rising. I cover the Royals and the Jayhawks. And then the final thing that I have an absolute blast doing is Inside the Royal. Oh, no, I already said that. I have so much, guys. I got to pass on.
He's a busy man.
Yeah, I do a podcast with Jacob Milham. And it's for Royals, and man, it's a blast. It's an absolute blast. So everywhere, guys, I'm everywhere.
That podcast is called The Royals Rundown. Definitely go check it out. It's a great listen. But as for the website, kcsportsreport.com is absolutely exploding. Lucas just informed me that we just crossed 2,000 page views, which is absolutely incredible for a growing website. And Lucas has been the main guy over there that's been publishing all that content and really giving back to you guys and providing great content. And as for me, you can follow me on Instagram. That is KC_sportsreport. Twitter is at KC Sports Report. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.